All right, Sherry, roll call, please.
Jason Keogh,
Here.
Rick Knotts, Ashley Pasquale, here. Robert Smith is excused. Chuck Vaughn,
Here.
Scott Welty,
Here.
Mark Zeef,
Here. Here.
Lauren Better,
Here.
and Councilmember Lynn.
All right, thank you. And I'd like to open up for a call to the public. If anybody would like to step up and speak, you may do so now. Not today. All right. All right. Then we'll move on to the minutes approval of the February 25th, 2019 minutes.
Make a motion we approve the minutes as read.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, thank you. Communications, announcements, and staff report. Mr. King.
Thank you, Mr. Welty. We had 583 participants register for Teen Break. I'd like to thank all volunteers, sponsors, and the community for all the donations and support of Teen Break. In comparison, 2 years ago when we ran the program, we had approximately 800, so just slightly under that number. The weather wasn't exactly perfect this week for them. There was a few activities that we were not able to do for our youth. One of them being we had the bigger water slide, but because it is air inflated, we didn't want it taking off. As well as a couple activities in the water itself. We were afraid we'd end up picking up the students in Parker, so we opted not to utilize some of those activities. But we'll save them for next year or for another occasion. The Jamaica After School program will be performing their version of Rockin' Tale of Snow White on April 19th at 4 p.m. We have 5 consecutive weeks of Kinderswim coming up in April. This will include Nautilus, Oro Grande, Starline, Guiding Light, and Jamaica. Also, the Aquatics Division is now offering a USA Masters swim program during the lap swim hours, providing some coaching and different workouts. So anyone interested in adults interested in a swim program, we have some coached workouts available as well. Some upcoming events at the community center. The home show will be March 29th through 31st. A Brooks and Dunn tribute band will be on April 4th. The Lake Havasu High School Youth Court Chocolate Affair is on April 6th. There will be a blood drive on April 17th and 18th. The Arizona Children's Play Learning Fair is April 27th. Lake Havasu High School Educational Tour Group Taco Dinner Fundraiser will be held April 28th. And a few events going on in the parks as well as around town in the month of April. Cirque de Havasu will be April 6th at London Bridge Beach. Party in the Park will be April 6th at the parcel on McCullough in Quarrio. Shockwave 5K will be also April 6th on the Island Walking Path. Battle by the Bridge baseball tournament will be held April 13th and 14th at the Sarah Park and Rotary Park ball fields. The Sunrise Rotary Easter egg hunt will be held April 14th on the Sarah Park T-ball fields. The Marine Corps League's Memorial will be held April 20th at Wheeler Park. Community Sunrise Service will be April 21st at London Bridge Beach Stage. Patriot Flag Display will be held at April 23rd on the London Bridge. And Desert Storm will take place April 25th through the 28th, several different venues throughout the city during that week. That concludes my updates.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions or like that?
Mr. Chair, thank you for your report. I was wondering if you could send an email over with details of your events like you did last time. That I appreciate that because I can absorb it more.
Yep, we can certainly get those out to you guys after every meeting.
You know, maybe if it's not too much trouble, could you put it in when you're reading your staff report? Could you put in a presentation for us to read along with you so we could absorb it while you're giving it and make notes?
Sure, we can do that.
Would that be? Thanks.
Go ahead, Ms. President.
Mr. Chair, thank you. I just wanted to add a little bit of information on the Play is Learning Fair you mentioned on April 27th. It's free and open to the public, and it's targeted for younger kids. And Clifford the Big Red Dog will be there. April 27th.
Sounds like a must-attend event. All right. Anybody else have anything?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Fromm.
The home show, that's at the Aquatic Center again, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Okay, if we have no more questions, move on to public hearings. First one will be the CIP update.
Okay. Again, pretty short update here. The budget process is a little bit different this year with our city manager's first time really kind of going through the budget, as well with our we have a new administrative services director. So we're not following the exact same calendar that we were following in the past. So the accounting staff is still working through that budget, evaluating the city resources, the day-to-day operations, and kind of how those CIP projects are mixing in with that. So I really don't have a firm update for you, and it also does not look like I will have one for you next month because the first feedback, the city manager is really waiting for the feedback from city council, which will come at an April 25th work session, and our next meeting is April 22nd. So it'll be just slightly after that. So I'll give you those updates of kind of what goes on in that meeting in our May meeting.
Thank you. Could you provide an update on any of so I'm assuming what you're talking about is for the next fiscal year budget. And we talked last time, is that right so far?
Yeah, for the next several, that would
Okay.
be the plan.
And when we talked last time, there were some projects that were looking like they were going to move forward for this budget year, what's left. And one of them was the renovations at the island field. Is that part correct? There was movement from the Sarah Park baseball field to the island ball fields.
That really hasn't been confirmed. It was just a topic that was talked about during the council retreat. So there hasn't been really too much more discussion on whether or not that is going to be viable to switch that over and work on that field versus a different field, or so those conversations have not fully happened yet.
I guess if I can add another comment, I guess that's a little concerning because if they're not talking about that till the end of April and the budget year ends in June, what will happen to those funds that have been reserved for parks / fields?
If depending on what council is looking at for that direction on April 25th, if those funds aren't, are utilized elsewhere within the city, or they could be rolled over into a future CIP project. So that doesn't necessarily mean those funds would be gone.
Okay. And you would be advocating for that to stay within
Almost
our
definitely.
budget? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr.
Chair.
Steve, go right ahead.
Is there any way for volunteers to get involved in those discussions, or at least be present during those discussions?
All those meetings are open to the public.
Are they city council meetings? Those are the discussions?
Correct, and the work sessions
And those
right
will
before.
be the only discussions, most likely?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Go right ahead.
You said our next meeting is the 22nd, and the discussions are going to be on the 25th, not the 23rd? Because the next council meeting would be on the 23rd, correct?
Yes, I believe it's a special work session on the 25th to discuss the budget and CIP.
Here in this chamber?
Correct.
Okay.
It would be a Thursday, and I'm drawing a blank on the time, but I believe it's in the morning, 9 a.m. Yeah.
9 a.m., okay. And the budget she was talking about, those funds that's the 18-19 budget, correct? That we're going to try to reserve the funds that we have? the funds that we were talking about utilizing to redo the ball field, is that a CIP project for future budget, or is that from
Correct.
the 18-19 budget?
Looking from the 1920 budget.
Okay, so we utilized all our funds from the 18-19 budget?
We have not.
So that will roll over unless the city decides to use it elsewhere.
Correct.
Sounds like we're the stepchild here.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
So the last time we met, we kind of went over a list of what you prioritized. We don't know, there's been no discussion about that since then. If we wanted to make input as a board, would tonight be the night to discuss the input of what we think?
Well, we did go through the priority of the board, and that information was passed along to council.
Could you refresh us tonight? And then if we wanted more input, would we be able to speak publicly as a citizen at the city council with our ideas
Certainly.
at the beginning of the meeting?
Yes.
Would that be the most prudent time to talk about it?
I
Not
would
here.
think, I would think so, yes.
Okay, I'm getting the nod.
All right. Anybody else have any questions for Mr. King on this subject?
I have one.
Go right ahead.
I don't know, maybe we just need head nods here, but would it make sense for us to push the April meeting to the 29th so we could hear the outcome of that meeting on the 25th? Is there any value in that?
I would think there would be some value. It's a little quicker to hear that. We would have to check to see if the room's available and if everything can work out, as well as everyone's schedule for a quorum.
Mr. Chair, I don't know though, but we wouldn't have any decision making in it. We're just be hearing the news. It wouldn't hurt. I mean, it really is pointless though, almost, because it'll already be said. I don't know. I'm up for it, whatever you guys want.
Mr. Chairman, if somebody is really wanting to, I would suggest going to the work session. I've gone to many of them when they had projects or dealings with things like that, and it's better to be right there and listen to it firsthand.
Thank you, Mr. Vaughn. Anybody else? Anybody? Public? Go right ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
I guess just thinking about the meetings, would it be helpful as you prepare for that work? Do you have any role at that work session, or is it through the city manager?
The city manager and the our administrative service director will really be presenting the budget.
So our voice from the Parks and Rec board goes through you during the internal meetings, and then that's presented to the council through the city manager.
Correct, as well as your liaison,
Yes.
Councilmember Lynn.
Okay. So is there value to you, either as staff or as the councilwoman, for us to have a meeting either before or right after the work session?
I would probably say before.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Anybody have any more? No? Public? All right. Moving on to the next discussion, the National After School Program Leadership Appreciation Week.
This concept was brought up at our last board meeting to recognize our after-school professionals and kind of do a proclamation for their After-School Professional Appreciation Week, which happens to run April 22nd through the 26th. In your packet there you have a draft proposal of a proclamation that would be read by our mayor. And so my thought would be to have the mayor present this proclamation at one of two meetings. One, it could be at our next board meeting here, April 22nd, or there is also a council meeting that Tuesday, April 23rd. So it's kind of open to the board of what they would feel would be more appropriate. Council meetings tend to be a little bit more well attended than our meetings, as well as I think more people might watch them on TV as well than our meetings. But we'll leave that up to you guys to discuss amongst yourselves.
Thought is, if we're gonna recognize them, then recognize them on the day that they're gonna be, we're gonna have the audience, we're gonna have the people here, and to appreciate, show their appreciation. Just my thought.
I agree.
So when you said on the day,
I'm sorry.
would that be April 20th?
23rd.
23rd, at the council meeting?
Yeah. Sorry about that.
This is great. I'm excited. Has there been thought about who might accept the proclamation? Would the after-school staff be able to be there?
Yes, I definitely think our recreation supervisor, Donna Bess Carlton, would accept it. But at the same time, we would invite many of that staff as well to be at the meeting and be able to come up.
Wonderful.
All right. So just okay. Everyone in favor of doing that on the 23rd then?
Aye.
Yeah, all in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right. Proposed changes to City Code 11.06.
Okay. You also have in your packet tonight a couple of ordinances that were introduced at the last city council meeting on March 12th. They involve some changes to the city code chapter 11.06, which is which is the section that addresses parks and recreation. These changes were based on conversations that took place during this year's council retreat, as well as just some general cleanup. If you'll look in your packet, you'll see an ordinance number 19-1215. This is the ordinance that really kind of cleans up chapter 11.06, again, that Parks and Recreation section. The first section is to remove the appointment of a student body member, which is section 11.06.021. We haven't really utilized that method of appointing a student body member in quite some time. The language is a little outdated, as we have more than just the Lake Havasu High School. We also have Telesis, homeschool, as well as some online learning. So there would be lots of other places. The way we treat the student body member is they would apply, and we treat them just like any other member of the board. So there's no reason to call it out in a section here that the mayor would be the one appointing them. Again, because they go through the same application process. This does not change the number of representatives on the board, which does include a student member, so that member will still be there. Section 2 is really just changing the department name from Community Services to Parks and Recreation. So that's just a little bit of cleanup. And then section 3 is amending chapter 11.06.070, powers and duties of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, by removing section 8.3, which states to advise and consult through the chairperson of the board with the Community Services Department as to the items to be included upon the agenda of meetings of the board prior to the preparation and distribution of the agenda by the Community Services Department. The reason we're going to remove that section is because it would be in direct conflict with another ordinance that was introduced to City Council on March 12th that amends City Code Chapter 2.04.610, which is the other ordinance that you have in your packet, which basically ensures that all committees, boards, commissions are operating in the same fashion and in a similar way to City Council and how items are brought to the board's attention and possibly put onto a future agenda. So that section, which is on page 5 of that ordinance, 2.04.610 general, board requests, committee, board, or commission members may request that an item be considered for possible future discussion by any member making a motion and receiving a second. No voting is necessary during the future discussion items portion of a committee, board, or commission meeting. The department liaison responsible for that committee, board, or commission will determine the best course of action to take for handling each request. All communication should be addressed to committee, board, or commissions as a whole and not to any individual member thereof. So again, that really just kind of makes so that all boards, commissions, and committees of the city are working in the same manner of the process that is in place for getting items on the agenda, and it follows suit with what council members can do to get agendas on the city council agenda as well.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Vaughn.
does this mean that if we are out in the public and somebody says something to us, that we would have to tell them that they would have to come to the meeting and address us to their concern?
That is always an option. You can also make the motion that it be discussed at a future meeting, and then if it is seconded, it would be put on agenda. Or if it is not, if it's an item where it doesn't get seconded, it might be something that is just simply a routine day-to-day task that our department would look at and take care of, versus necessarily really a board function, which is more policy driven.
The reason I said that is because it just kind of sounded like that when you said not one individual, it would take us talking to people out in the public, if they know we're on the board or whatever, and they say, hey, can we talk about this, maybe a new project, or we're having a problem with this, or reseeding that, or something like that, and then we'd have to bring it to the board here and ask for a discussion, correct?
Yeah. The part about talking with the one individual is I wouldn't discuss it directly with you. If you had brought it up, I would also email the entire board so that everybody is aware, of that.
Anybody have any more on that? Go right ahead.
My question is based just on what is included in the sections that were pulled out for amendment, so this may be answered somewhere else in the code. But does this limit requests that come up with our discussion with other agenda topics?
It very well could, but again, some of those items that have been brought in the past, I will say, aren't maybe necessarily functions of the board. Again, the board's function is more policy driven and not day-to-day operations.
So this part just limits it to only during the, so requests can only be made during the future discussion items portion. And so that's where my question was coming from, is we have discussion and we want to talk about something on another agenda item. In another meeting, and we're in the middle of an agenda item like this one. Does that limit us then to have to wait till the discussion of future agenda items topic to bring that back up?
So you wanted to continue an item onto a second meeting? Is that?
I mean, that was my example, but as we are discussing items on our agenda, there are times when we want to have something on a future agenda to take action the next meeting. For example, if we can't take action during the meeting we're in. So this language makes me think that we need to hold those requests for future agenda items until that
That
item
section
on
of
the
the meeting.
agenda. And so you can't really resolve your agenda topic at that portion of the agenda. Am I not explaining myself? Okay. So right now, if I wanted to make a request that this item be on a future agenda,
I think if we got a second on that, we could. If we're already talking about the item, it's already on our agenda. So to carry it over to the next month's agenda, I don't foresee that being an issue. If we started talking about a completely different topic while we were on an agenda item, no, that should wait until future agenda items.
I guess according to open meeting law, if we have an an item on our agenda, we can take action on that item, and that might be to have another topic on an agenda later. But this code seems to limit that discussion to only happen during the future agenda items discussion.
I will check on that.
Okay.
I do not have the answer to that one. I will check on that.
Is this just for our information, or are we?
Yes, as well as it is being brought back to council at the next council meeting tomorrow night. So just so everybody was aware, but it really is informational. But I will, Board Member Pasquale, I'll get that question answered tomorrow morning and get it out to the board in an email.
Okay, and if I need to articulate my question a little better, I can do that too.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
All right,
Mr. Chairman.
Mr.
Mike,
Vaughn, go ahead.
Does this limit us, are we able to, if we see something or think of something or whatever, does this limit us to not being able to email you or call you to possibly put something as a discussion item or agenda item before the meeting?
Not in any way, shape, or form. That actually is welcomed because then if it is an item that that is more of a day-to-day task of the department, we can discuss it there and work through possibly some solutions to that.
Perfect. All right, did that answer everyone's questions? All right, anybody have anything else? Public? Doesn't look like we have anybody jumping up on that one, so move on to future agenda items. Seems to be an important part now.
Last chance.
All right. Mr. Zeef, go right ahead.
You know, I've got something.
Uh-huh.
I wanted to know if we could run the pros and cons of the London Bridge Beach parking lot improvement idea, as far as entrance and exit. Entrances are really narrow, so if we could have a discussion, or if you can give us the pros and cons of why we can't make more parking down there and run a sidewalk up to, I forget the name of the road, to the Island Inn Hotel in the West End. I don't want to get too detailed because it's not a discussion, but I just wanted to say parking lot improvements for London Bridge Beach, sidewalk improvements, and cleanup of weeds and things like that. If we could have a discussion, maybe it'll be done before the next meeting. Can I get a second? Really?
Anybody want to second Mr. Zeef?
We do not need a second
No?
yet,
Okay.
as this is just introduced ordinance,
Okay.
so it has not taken effect yet.
All right. Want to make it official. All right. Anybody else?
Maybe if we
You
could
go ahead.
expand that topic to just, it's been a while since we last talked about the overall, I'm not remembering the name of it, but the survey to improve pathways and walkways.
The pedestrian and bike plan.
Yes, thank you. And I wonder if any of that came up during that plan, or if there's an update or any discussion items we could benefit from that.
That might be something you have to invite Mark Clark over to for our next meeting because we know that's his department, right? Operations? Okay.
Okay. Any more agenda items like to get on there for? All right, moving on. Future meetings, Sherry?
Future meeting dates are April 22nd, and then we would like to discuss the May 27th meeting is Memorial Day. So I did check, and this room is available May 20th if you would like to reschedule to that date instead.
Yeah, I don't have any opposition to that. Looks like I'm good. Anybody else?
I'll be gone through all of May, so I'll miss the May meeting anyway.
And I'm sorry, I didn't catch the change of the date.
The May 20th, it would be from the, what, the 27th to the 20th?
Works for me.
You okay? Mr. Vaughn, you good with that?
I'm fine.
Everyone? Okay. Then we'll move it to the 20th.
Yes.
Okay. All right. With that, call meeting to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second on that?
Second.
All right. Meeting adjourned.